All right, we are going to continue, insha'Allah ta'ala, the tafsir of Surat Al-An'am. We're going to start, insha'Allah, from ayah 136, that we covered last time. We'll continue from there. The author said, starting with the word of Allah ta'ala, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وجعلوا لله مما ذرأ من الحرث والأنعام نصيبا. And they have made for Allah, they have dedicated to Allah from what He created of harvest and cattle, a share. Those are pagans. They dedicated for Allah, yani, in their claim, as the ayah is going to say, from among what He created of harvest and cattle. Cattle means camels, cows, sheep, and goats. That's three kinds: camels, cows, and sheep and goats. Sheep and goats, they are called ghanam. They made a share, they dedicated a share, they put وَجَعَلُوا for Allah from what He created of harvest and cattle to be spent on guests and the poor. This part, you can remove it. Okay. فقالوا هذا لله بزعمهم وهذا لشركائنا. They said, this is for Allah in their claim. Yani, this portion is dedicated for the sake of Allah. In their claim, yani, Allah never commanded them to do what they were doing. So this is what they said. وَهَذَا لِشُرَكَائِنَا. And this is for our partners, they said. Yani, and a portion was dedicated to their partners. And the partners means the idols, and it means the devils. Tabari mentions both of them. I mentioned for you. So this second part of the ayah here, it proves that something is implied before. What's mentioned before is that they dedicated a share to be spent for the sake of Allah, they say. And what's implied is, and they also dedicated a share to be spent for the sake of the idols. That's proven by this. فَقَالُوا هَذَا لِلَّهِ بِزَعْمِهِمْ وَهَذَا لِشُرَكَائِنَا. Thus they said, this is for Allah in their claim, and this is for our partners, the devils and the idols. Yani, they worship the idols. So it was narrated that they used to dedicate an amount of their harvest and livestock to Allah and another portion to their idols. فَمَا كَانَ لِشُرَكَائِهِمْ فَلَا يَصِلُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. And what was for their partners does not reach Allah. What they dedicate to the idols not reaching Allah means that it would never get spent in the ways it was supposed to be used for, such as hospitality to the guests and giving charity to the poor. So then what it was being spent on? The revenue generated by the share for the idols. What was it being spent on? It was being spent on the idol keepers. So what's that? That's an industry there. That's a business. وَمَا كَانَ لِلَّهِ فَهُوَ يَصِلُ إِلَى شُرَكَائِهِمْ. And what was for Allah reaches their partners. If they found what they dedicated to Allah increasing, they would take the increase and dedicate it to their idols. But if they found that what they dedicated to their idols was increasing, they would leave it. And they would say, Allah is rich. That is only due to their love of their idols and their preference for the idols over Allah. Sa'a ma yahkumun. Very bad is their judging. Their reasoning and how they have determined their actions is invalid because it resulted in them preferring idols over God. وكذلك زين لكثير من المشركين قتل أولادهم شركاؤهم وكذلك زين لكثير من المشركين قتل أولادهم شركاؤهم ليردوهم وليلبسوا عليهم دينهم ولو شاء الله ما فعلوه فذرهم وما يفترون وكذلك زين لكثير من المشركين قتل أولادهم شركاؤهم. And like the aforementioned embellishments, according to Jalalain, their partners, the devils, embellished for many of the pagans, the killing of their children. Yani, decorated for them. Zayyana. وَكَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَ. And likewise, he beautified. That's the meaning of embellish. Beautified. The devils embellished for many of the pagans the killing of their children. وَكَذَلِكَ. And like that, like the aforementioned embellishments, things that the devil beautified for them. زين لكثير من المشركين قتل أولادهم شركاؤهم. Their partners, the devils, embellished for many of the pagans the killing of their children. Why they would kill their own children? They would kill their own children, says their partners are the devils, just as those partners beautified for them the corrupt distribution of their monies. They also beautified for them the practice of burying their daughters alive. Why they would do that to their daughters? They feared that they would be captured or die of starvation or something else. And what's the basis of this fear here? This that drove them to kill their daughters. It was the lack of believing that Allah was the provider. They didn't believe that Allah was the provider. لِيُرْدُوهُمْ وَلِيَلْبِسُوا عَلَيْهِمْ دِينَهُمْ. To ruin them. Yani, the devils strove to ruin them by these practices of theirs. And to muddle their religion for them. Bismillah. لِيُرْدُوهُمْ وَلِيَلْبِسُوا عَلَيْهِمْ دِينَهُمْ. And you know that the case of the Arabs was that they were upon the religion of Ishmael. Then there came among them a man who introduced these things to them and corrupted their religion. And that's how those Arabs were like the Christians. But the Christians believed in a Trinity. The Arabs didn't believe in a Trinity. They worshipped many things, many idols. Some of them in their claim were males, some of them were females. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا فَعَلُوهُ. And had Allah willed, they would not have done it. This is evidence that they did not disobey Allah against His will. فَذَرْهُمْ وَمَا يَفْتَرُونَ. So leave them, O Muhammad, and what they fabricate. It will not harm you. وَقَالُوا هَذِهِ أَنْعَامٌ وَحَرْثٌ حِجْرٌ لَا يَطْعَمُهَا إِلَّا مَن نَّشَاءُ وقالوا هذه أنعام وحرث حجر لا يطعمها إلا من نشاء بزعمهم وأنعام حرمت ظهورها وأنعام لا يذكرون اسم الله عليها افتراء عليه سيجزيهم بما كانوا يفترون وقالوا هذه أنعام. They said this cattle هذه أنعام وحرث حجر. They said this cattle and harvest is barred, off limits. Which cattle and which harvest? That which was dedicated to the idols. لا يطعمها إلا من نشاء بزعمهم. No one eats it except whom we want in their claim. Who are they? The custodians of the idols and the men, not the women. And their claim is their baseless claim. This claim here is a claim that has the hint of a lie. Like when you say, so you claim. وَأَنْعَامٌ حُرِّمَتْ ظُهُورُهَا. And cattle whose backs are forbidden. To remind you here, cattle does not mean cow. That's American cattle meaning cow. Cattle here means livestock. You know what they are. Camels, cows, sheep, and goats. وَأَنْعَامٌ حُرِّمَتْ ظُهُورُهَا. And cattle whose backs are forbidden. So, besides the division of their livestock that was restricted, they also had a division whose backs were forbidden, meaning that no one was to ride upon those. What were those? Those were some, according to them, some special animals, camels, and according to some other than camels too. These were basically retired animals. They would retire some animals under some conditions. Then they would say, no one can ride these. And they would let those animals go anywhere they wanted, and no one would bother them. And they would use the milk of these animals, though, for their guests, just for the guests. وَأَنْعَامٌ حُرِّمَتْ ظُهُورُهَا. And cattle whose backs are forbidden. Yani, they made this up. This has no basis, no validity. وَأَنْعَامٌ لَا يَذْكُرُونَ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهَا. And cattle which they do not mention the name of Allah over them when sacrificing. Rather, they would mention their idols. So they were eating haram meat, iftira'an alayh, lying on Him, lying on God. Their lie was that they attributed that to Allah while He never sanctioned or permitted it. They said, this is what God said. Iftira'an alayh. This word iftira means lying. Yani, it's a lie. Iftira is a lie. That's not a verb, that's a noun. Iftira'an, so there's fatha there. So this could mean motivated to lie on God. Yani, their motivation was to lie on God. They said that to lie on Him. Subhanallah. Who would do that? A custodian of the idols would do that. Yeah. And could mean they were doing all of this while lying on God, then it's a hal. So if it means they did it to lie on God, then that's maf'ulun li ajlihi. Maf'ulun li ajlihi. Nahu. If it means they did all of that while lying on God, then that's hal, it's adverb. سَيَجْزِيهِمْ بِمَا كَانُوا يَفْتَرُونَ. He shall recompense them for what they were fabricating. But I have a question. Yani, not for you. I don't know the answer. Because I thought these people were from the time of ignorance. It says that Allah will pay them for what they were doing. So I need clarity there. وقالوا ما في بطون هذه الأنعام خالصة لذكورنا ومحرم على أزواجنا وإن يكن ميتة فهم فيه شركاء سيجزيهم وصفهم إنه حكيم عليم وقالوا ما في بطون هذه الأنعام خالصة لذكورنا. They said, what is in the bellies of these cattle is specific for our males, is special to our males, and forbidden for our wives. So these were the babies, the pregnancies of those retired animals. So those retired animals, there's a lot of talk there. I actually would like to share that with you. Let me finish this ayah here, then we can take a look. They said, what is in the bellies of these cattle is specific to our males and forbidden for our wives. وَإِن يَكُن مَيْتَةً فَهُمْ فِيهِ شُرَكَاء. And if it were dead, if the fetus came out dead, then they were partners in it. That's when they would share it with the women. If it were born dead, then the men and the women would share it. سَيَجْزِيهِمْ وَصْفَهُمْ. He shall recompense them for their description of what is lawful or unlawful. Yani, if it means their description of what is lawful or unlawful, I'd say prescription. Their prescription. How they have prescribed it. But also can be explained as that this is how they have described Allah, means they attributed that to Allah. Meaning they were lying on Allah. They said, this is what Allah said. Then it means what they attributed to Him. وَصْفَهُمْ إِنَّهُ حَكِيمٌ عَلِيمٌ. Surely He is wise concerning their penalty, knowledgeable of their convictions. Okay, what's the case of those retired animals? Let's take a look here. Okay, so وَأَنْعَامٌ حُرِّمَتْ ظُهُورُهَا. And the livestock whose backs are forbidden, according to them. Those were the camels called Hami or Sa'iba or Bahira. So, here's a benefit. In Al-Mukhtar, that's a dictionary. The Hami is the male camel, that is the stud. And he lived with its masters for a long time. In Al-Qamus, these are all dictionaries. It is mated a certain number of times, the stud, this Hami, this a male. Or it fathers 10 deliveries. Then it is retired. And it is allowed to drink and graze as it wishes. And it is not ridden. Also in Al-Mukhtar, he adds, copying from Al-Farra, if that stud's grandson mates, then that stud's back becomes off limits, and it becomes retired. So it's not ridden, and its hair is not cut, and it is not prevented from any pasture. If that stud's grandson mates, means they had a male, and then this male fathered uh, other camels. So then, so from those camels, there were more camels. So this stud has a grandson now. So if this one of his grandsons mates, then they retire the grandfather. As for the Sa'ibah, the retired she-camel, according to Al-Qamus, during the era of ignorance, it was the she-camel that was retired from service due to a vow or its likes, or if it gave birth 10 times and all 10 were females. It's like a lottery here. It would be inaugurated as a Sa'ibah. Or if a man came back from a long travel, or his animal survived a great difficulty or war, he would say, she is Sa'ibah. Such a camel would be allowed to graze as it wished, and so it would not be prevented from any water or pasture, and it would not be ridden. Al-Mukhtar adds, no one would drink its milk but its offspring or a guest, and if it died, the men and women would eat it. In Al-Misbah, it is the mother of the Bahira. What's the Bahira? The Bahira is the clipped-eared she-camel. So it's retired like its mother. In Al-Mukhtar, its ear is clipped, and that clipping is called Bahr. So this female is called Bahira for that. In Al-Qamus, it is the daughter of the Sa'ibah. And they treated it like its mother. In Al-Misbah, it is the daughter of the Sa'ibah that is left with its mother. This is the saying of whoever explained it as a she-camel. If a camel had 5 deliveries and the 5th were a male, they would slaughter it and eat it. If it were a female, they would clip its ear and leave it with its mother. Some say that the Bahira is the Sa'ibah if it had 7 deliveries. So from here, 5 deliveries, 7 deliveries, 10 deliveries. So you just take the idea. They were doing something like this. They would clip its ear and it would not ride it or make it carry loads. In Al-Maqayis, the Arabs would clip its ear when it had 10 deliveries. Then it would not be ridden and there would be no benefit from its back. So its back is off limits. It's retired. In Al-Qamus, if a camel or sheep would have 10 deliveries, they would clip its ear and leave it to graze wherever it wanted. They would make its meat forbidden for their women, and the men would eat it. It may also refer to what was left without a shepherd, or to what had 5 deliveries. If the 5th were a male, they would slaughter it, and the men and women would eat it, and if it were a female, they would clip its ear and refrain from its meat. They would refrain from its meat, its milk, and from riding it, or it's the daughter of the Sa'ibah, and Allah knows best. So that's a compilation of dictionaries. Gives you an idea of what they were doing. Allah knows best. قَدْ خَسِرَ الَّذِينَ قَتَلُوا أَوْلَادَهُمْ سَفَهًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Failed have those who killed their children foolishly without knowledge. Without knowledge, what were they ignorant about? They did not know that Allah is the provider of their children and not them. وَحَرَّمُوا مَا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ افْتِرَاءً عَلَى اللَّهِ. And they forbade what Allah provided to them, lying on Allah. How did they forbid what Allah provided to them? Because all that retiring those animals is invalid. It is not valid for human beings to make laws. قَدْ ضَلُّوا وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. They had gone astray and they were not guided. وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنشَأَ جَنَّاتٍ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَغَيْرَ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ وَالزَّيْتُونَ وَالرُّمَّانَ والزيتون والرمان متشابها وغير متشابه كلوا من ثمره إذا أثمر وآتوا حقه يوم حصاده ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين وهو الذي أنشأ جنات معروشات وغير معروشات. And he it is who created gardens that spread over the ground and gardens that do not spread and instead they grow upon stalks. Yani, Allah created gardens that have vines in them. And some of those vines, the people make trellises for them so that the vines can climb them. And some of those vines, the people leave them on the ground. That's if it's a person's garden. والنخل والزرع مختلفا أكله والزيتون والرمان والنخل والزرع مختلفا أكله. And the palm tree with its fruits varying, and the seeds of crops vary like those fruits. وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ, and the palm tree and the crops. Maybe I need to look and check something here. Al-ukul, so the way it's translated here, the ukul is the fruits. Yes, usually it means that. But look how it came in the ayah. وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ. The nakhl, palm tree, and the crops. It's ukul, varying. Here, ukuluhu looks like that singular goes back to what? The ukul of what? Which one? The way it's translated here, ukuluhu goes back to the nakhl. But I don't have any signal to anything here, other than putting it that way, if that's the signal. So I need to review it, inshallah. وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ. So, and the palm tree with its fruits varying, and the seeds of the crops vary like those fruits. So, yani, unlikely that did it like that, unless it was written. But that's how it is in the Tafsir. Well, just double check it though. And the palm tree with its fruits varying, مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ. And also the seeds of the crops, because the zara has seeds. Yani usually the ukul means fruits. That's what's the issue. Do you say in Arabic that the zara has ukul? So if I knew that more firmly, then I won't have a question here. The nakhl definitely has ukul. Zara has ukul. The way it's translated, the seeds. The zara has seeds in parentheses. And they vary like those fruits. They vary like those fruits vary. Now I could pull up the tafsir, but I don't want to take the time. Because sometimes I want to like just do some things while I'm giving the lesson, but I feel shy because I don't want to take your time or waste your time or make you sit there while I'm doing something. والزيتون والرمان متشابها وغير متشابه. And the olive and the pomegranate, alike in color and leaves, and unalike in flavor. Look that up. I remember when we worked on this tafsir, and we were Googling some of those images there to see. Barakallahu feekum. And the olive and the pomegranate, alike and unalike. متشابها وغير متشابه. Alike in color and leaves, unalike in flavor. كلوا من ثمره إذا أثمر. Eat from the fruit of each when it bears fruit. Eat from the fruit when it bears fruit. I wonder what some scholars might say about that. Why it says like that. And what that proves something. What does that prove? Okay, we'll take a look, inshallah. This proves that these plants are not najas, because Allah commanded us to eat from them. Had they been najas, we wouldn't have been commanded to eat from them. And likewise, the animals that Allah permits us to use, mentioned in the Quran, even these an'am, these livestock or cattle, the permission to use them proves that they are not najas. كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ. Eat from the fruit. Eat from its fruit, the fruit of each. ثَمَرِهِ, the fruit of each. إِذَا أَثْمَرَ, when it bears fruit. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. And give what zakat is due. Give what zakat is due on it at the time of its harvest. Pay the due zakat at the time of harvest. Yes, there's a zakat rule here. Look at that. All what we have been reading here, we didn't see a lot of fiqh rules. Here, there's a rule. Came in the ayah. Pay the zakat at the time of harvest. What's that? So, there's different types of money subject to zakat, animals and plants and bullion and the value of trade. And those all have their rules. The animals, when do you pay the zakat on the animals? You're going to have a certain number of animals, and then once you get that certain number, when you have those same animals for a whole year, you're going to pay the zakat. When do you pay the zakat for the bullion, the gold or silver? You're going to have a certain amount of gold or silver, and then when you have that same amount for a whole year, you're going to pay the zakat for it. When do you pay the zakat for the crops and the fruits at harvest? That's why you might pay zakat on your crops twice per year if you happen to have 2 harvests per year. Usually people have 1 harvest per year. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. And do not squander. Do not squander it by giving it all away and not providing for your dependents. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Surely he does not accept the squanderers. Wait, if you want to give me a minute, I'll pull up this file here and we'll see what's in the Tafsir of An-Nasafi for this ayah 141, Surat Al-An'am. Hold on. Bismillah. وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنشَأَ. Here it is who أنشأ خلق, created Jannat, gardens, min al-kurum, of vines, ma'rushat, masmukatin marfu'at, raised, وغير معروشات متروكات على وجه الأرض. Raised vines and vines that are left on the ground. They don't climb up on trellises. Okay, skipping a little bit here. وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا, and the palm and the crops. مختلفة. Okay, مختلفا في اللون والطعم والحجم والرائحة، وهو حال مقدرة لأن النخل وقت خروجه لا أكل فيه حتى يكون مختلفا، وهو كقوله فادخلوها خالدين. أكله حجازي، وهو ثمره الذي يؤكل، والضمير للنخل والزرع، والزرع داخل في حكم، والزرع، والضمير للنخل والزرع داخل في حكمه. هكذا. It's like I translated it. Alhamdulillah. لأنه معطوف عليه أو لكل واحد, or it's for both of them, or the pronouns for both of them. This is another way of explaining it. So let me go back to you for you. والنخل والزرع مختلفا أكله, and the palm tree with its fruits varying. With its fruits, ukuluhu. He said the damir is for the nakhl. With its fruits varying. Wazara, and the seeds of the crops, but the zara is included in its rule. They vary like those fruits. That's dakhilun fi hukmihi. They vary like those fruits. The seeds of the crops vary like those fruits. And he says, and there's another way to explain it, that the pronoun ukuluhu can be for both of them. وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفًا أُكُلُهُ. Both of their ukul is varying. So that means the zara has ukul and the nakhl has ukul. Wallahu a'lam. We'll stop there.